The lights dimmed, and the crowd fell silent. On that massive stage where dreams were born and broken, a frail, barefoot boy stood trembling under the blinding glow. His clothes were worn, his hands slightly shaking as he clutched the microphone. The world was watching, yet in that moment, he looked as if he had no one, just a lonely figure with eyes full of untold stories. His name was Eli Ramirez, a 14-year-old boy from a small coastal town who had traveled miles, alone, to stand here. No one knew his past. No one expected what was about to happen next. When the host introduced him, his voice cracked. "This is Eli. He'll be singing Hotel California by the Eagles." A ripple of surprise swept through the audience. It wasn't the kind of song you expected from a child. It was iconic, haunting, and heavy with emotion. The judges exchanged glances, a mix of curiosity and doubt. One whispered, "He's so young for that song." Another sighed, "Let's hope he knows what he's doing." Eli took a deep breath. For a second, he closed his eyes. The world seemed to fade away, the bright lights, the murmurs, the intimidating faces in the front row. In his mind, he wasn't standing on a stage anymore. He was back home, in the dim little room where his mother used to hum the same song while washing dishes. He could almost hear her soft voice, smell the sea breeze coming through the cracked window, and feel the warmth of her hand brushing his hair. Then the first chord played. His voice, pure and trembling, filled the arena, a fragile whisper that somehow carried 1,000 emotions. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. Something shifted in the room. The audience leaned forward. Even the judges stopped taking notes. His tone was raw, filled with a kind of pain that only truth could produce. Each word felt like a confession, a story bleeding through the melody. As he sang, images flashed behind his closed eyelids, his mother's smile fading under the hospital's white light, his little sister's tears when they had to sell their guitar for food, the long nights busking on the streets just to afford the bus ticket that brought him here. Every note was a memory, every pause a silent cry. The second verse came, stronger this time. His fear began to melt away, replaced by something beautiful, power, courage, and grief intertwined. The audience could sense it. The song wasn't just being sung, it was lived. When he reached the line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," his voice cracked, just slightly, and that imperfection made it perfect. Tears streamed down his cheeks, yet he kept singing, pouring his soul into every note. The crowd was motionless. Even the cameras zoomed in, capturing the single tear that fell from his chin to the microphone. By the time the final chord rang out, there was nothing but silence. Then, an eruption. The audience leapt to their feet. The applause was thunderous, echoing through the ha. The hall like waves crashing against the shore. One judge, a stern man known for his harsh critiques, wiped his eyes with a shaking hand. Another, speechless, simply stood and placed her hand over her heart. Eli, the head judge, began, voice trembling. That wasn't a performance. That was a miracle. But Eli didn't hear the praise. He was staring up at the stage lights, as if trying to find his mother's face in the glow. A journey born from pain. Backstage, after the performance, Eli sat alone on a wooden crate, still gripping his old guitar. The host came by to congratulate him, but Eli only smiled politely. "I didn't come here to win," he whispered. "I came here so my mom could hear me one last time." The words caught the host off guard. "Your mom?" Eli nodded. "She passed away 2 years ago. Hotel California was her favorite song. She used to say that when I sang it, it felt like time stopped. She told me, if I ever sang it on a big stage, she'd be listening, no matter where she was." The host had no words. Behind them, the production team silently watched, their eyes misty. None of them had expected such a story from the shy boy who had walked in with a cracked guitar and torn shoes. That night, Eli's audition went viral. Within hours, millions of people across the world were watching the barefoot boy who made even the toughest judges cry. Comments poured in from everywhere, messages of love, encouragement, and offers of help. But fame was the last thing on his mind. All he cared about was keeping his mother's memory alive. When reporters asked about his future, he said softly, "I just want to help kids like me, kids who sing to survive." An unexpected twist. A week later, during the next round of the competition, Eli received a letter from the show producers. He wasn't scheduled to perform that day. Instead, they wanted him to meet someone special. Confused but hopeful, he arrived early. In a quiet corner of the studio stood a woman with a gentle smile and kind eyes. She was holding a small pink backpack, the kind a little girl might carry to school. "Eli," she asked softly. He froze. His eyes widened. "Es Sophia." The little girl peeked out from behind the woman's legs, his sister. The same sister he hadn't seen in nearly a year. Eli ran forward and dropped to his knees, wrapping her in his arms. She burst into tears. "Mama said you'd find me someday," she sobbed. The woman, a social worker from the shelter where Sophia had been staying, explained that after seeing Eli's audition on television, donors and fans reached out to help locate his family. The show producers joined the search. They wanted to reunite the siblings before Eli's next performance. Eli couldn't speak, he just held Sophia, crying into her shoulder. Around them, the crew stood silently, many with tears of their own. In that moment, it didn't matter whether he won the competition. He had already won something far greater. The final P. The final performance. Weeks passed. The finale arrived. The hall was filled to capacity, millions watching live from around the world. Eli stepped onto the stage again, this time with new shoes, a gift from one of the judges, and a clean white shirt. But what stood out most was the tiny figure sitting in the front row, his sister Sophia, smiling up at him. When the lights dimmed, the host announced, "Tonight, Eli will perform Hotel California one more time, but this time, it's for someone very special." The guitar began to play. This time, the voice that rose was steady, rich, and full of quiet power. It wasn't the trembling voice of a boy burdened by loss, it was the voice of someone who had learned to turn pain into strength. As he sang, the stage lights shifted, revealing photos of his mother projected behind him, laughing, holding baby Sophia, sitting by the ocean. The audience gasped. Eli didn't know the producers had prepared that surprise. His eyes glistened, but he kept singing. Halfway through the song, Sophia stood up and started to hum along, softly, shyly at first, then louder. The crowd joined in. The entire hall echoed with the melody of Hotel California, sung not just as a song, but as a tribute to love that never dies. When the music ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. One of the judges broke down completely, covering her face as tears fell. Another simply whispered, "That was heaven." The head judge leaned forward. "Eli," he said, voice shaking, "I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen thousands of performers. But what you just did, that wasn't music. That was the soul of humanity." The golden buzzer lit up. Confetti rained down like stardust. Eli stood frozen, his little sister rushing onto the stage to hug him. The entire world seemed to cheer in unison. A ripple of kindness. In the months that followed, Eli's story spread across the globe. But what happened next was something no one expected. Instead of signing record deals or chasing fame, he began visiting shelters, orphanages, and hospitals, bringing his guitar, singing for children who had lost hope. When reporters asked why he didn't take the usual celebrity route, he smiled softly. Because music isn't about being famous. It's about being heard, especially by those who feel invisible. He founded a small non-profit called Echo of Hope, providing music lessons and instruments to underprivileged kids. The first donation came from the same judge who had once doubted him. Others followed. Within a year, thousands of children across America and beyond were learning music because of Eli. And every time he performed Hotel California, he said the same thing before starting. "This song isn't about sadness anymore. It's about finding your way home, no matter how lost you feel." A letter from the past. One evening, while packing for a charity concert, Sophia handed him a small, folded piece of paper. "Mama wrote this," she whispered. They found it in her old Bible. Eli opened it carefully. The handwriting was faint but unmistakable. "My dear Eli, if you ever find yourself alone, remember this: you were never meant to stay in the darkness. You were born to bring light. Music will be your bridge to people's hearts. Use it kindly. When you sing, I'll be listening, always. Love, Mom." Eli smiled through tears. That night, on stage in front of thousands, he shared his mother's words with the audience. And as he sang, he realized something profound: she hadn't just given him life, she had given him purpose. The legacy. Years later, people still spoke of that audition, the one where a barefoot boy made the judges cry like never before. But to Eli, it was never about the tears. It was about connection, the invisible thread that tied every heart in that room together. In interviews, he often said, "The world doesn't need more stars. It needs more lights, people who shine for others." He never stopped visiting small towns and shelters. He'd sit with the kids, show them a few chords, and tell them, music is a home that never leaves you. When asked if he'd ever stop singing Hotel California, he chuckled. "No. Because every time I sing it, I see her smiling again." And somewhere, perhaps beyond the sunset, a mother's spirit smiled indeed, proud of the boy who turned pain into purpose, loss into love, and a song into salvation. Moral and message. Eli's story reminds us that greatness is not born from perfection, but from perseverance and love. Even in our darkest nights, music, or whatever passion we carry, can be the light that guides us home. Sometimes, it takes one voice, one of courage, to remind the world that kindness still exists, and that even the simplest song can heal 1,000 hearts.